Okay, so welcome to the week 12 Winter Munro update. So the main focus of this week 12 has been the sort of more southern regions of the Northwest Highlands, and you have this sort of area around Loch Coich, Glen Shiel, Glen Affric. So it's really been all about getting summits in these particular areas and making headway on them. It's been very much a week of picking up dregs and just a few bits here and a few bits there, but all in all really important stuff and also really productive. One of the big outstanding areas that I had was around Loch Coich. So you have 3 summits to the north, and you also have a huge tangle of summits to the south of the loch. They were for later, but on the first day of the week I headed to the north 3 with Helen Renard, and we started up Skúravuach in the morning. It was a really nice day, and actually I said at the time it was actually quite nice to have some company. Yeah, I mean I do a lot of the walking myself, of course, and of course I do all the walking myself. But yeah, sometimes just a bit of chat and some company is really, really good. Here's a highlight of my day. 3 Scotch pies from Helen. Beautiful. The 2 got finished a long time ago. Yeah, we had a good day. We had a pretty big river crossing at one point, so the boots got absolutely soaked, and we headed off up Glowrich in the afternoon with soaking wet feet, unfortunately. But once we're over Glowrich and onto the 3rd Munro, Spigeon Muirloch, it was a really nice afternoon, and yeah, really enjoyed the whole day. There's the car, there's Helen. Pothole plus tyre equals knackered. That's amazing. There you go. Anatomy of a wheel. Full thing change. Yep. What we get up to after whole days. Kinloch Road 1, Vauxhall 0. The next little cluster of summits were a pair that I'd left in Glen Shiel. Today I'm heading for Achralig and Muirloch Fruchcorrie. So 2 Munros at Glen Shiel, and my last 2 Munros at Glen Shiel. So pretty damn pleased about that. They're 2 summits above the Cluny Inn, and it was actually a much drier day. It was quite nice. Yeah, on that particular day everything was just beautifully crisp, and I had a brilliant time across the pinnacles up to the 2nd Munro. They're kind of easy scrambling, but good fun in winter and good sort of moments of problem solving and just good fun. Nice sort of pinnacles over there just along the sort of skyline, and they had a bit of scrambling up and down. I thought about getting some footage and then I was like, no, not to bother. But anyway, the weather's going to close in the next hour or so. Glen Affric was the next logical place to go, and I headed first for a Munro, Tom Achonach. And you can link Tom Achonach into a cluster of 3 further west which are more remote, and I would really like to have done that and just done it as a big 1-day round trip. Heading up Tom Achonach. So I've got a big round of 4. Tom Achonach is right here, and the other 3 are miles away at the back, but quite closely clustered. So as you go at the back, you're doing all 3. Kind of no buts. That turns out into like a 30k day. I was just staggering through this glen, and this glen is just rammed with surface water, snow melt, sinking slobbery snowfields, bogs, just falling into stuff. And I was like, another 2 hours of this I am not going to make it to. I thought another 2 hours of this I am not going to make it to Mumsole today. Or just Mumsole and do everything else. Just not happening. The weather started just pounding in from the west with really hard hail showers, and it just got to a point where it's like, right, what am I doing here? Stagger to the summit, crawl to the summit, do anything you can to get to the cairn. And when I got to the cairn, that was fine, I had margin, but realistically, are you going to go and do the other 3? Bit of a bummer not being able to do more, but nonetheless, okay, fair enough. You need to be clever about it. You need to get those breaks in the weather for some of these more remote mountains. So the next day I went back to that cluster of 3. The highest one is Carnay, which is the highest summit in the Northwest Highlands. And again, it was blizzarding in the morning, it was blizzarding in the corrie, it was really heavy conditions. Sometimes I couldn't see my feet. It was really, really rough. And then I got up onto Mam Sol, and I was amazed to get to the summit of Mam Sol, #1. And I was like, what am I doing? Right, this is the moment. I either turn back or I go right more into the wilderness and get the other 2 summits. And I almost didn't do it, and then I pulled back. I almost did it, and then I pulled back. And then I tried again, and it's like, no, it's not right. A lot of blizzarding, a lot of spin drifting, a lot of wind. So, it's not a light decision. It's not a light decision to continue on here. It was a grim, really cold summit. Everything was freezing and just getting blasted. And by complete luck, I just got this little window of weather where things calmed down a little bit. And it was just enough to say, right, it's good. Go for Ben Yunlai and Carnegie. 2 summits out on a limb. My hunch in the morning totally paid off, because I saw there was that little gap of weather in the afternoon. If I go too early, I'll blow my load in the bad weather. And I was standing up here in a blizzard and it cleared when I got here. And then yeah, that's just opened up the rest of the day. You're extending this thread way deep into the wilderness, and you know that if the weather came in, it could just crush you like an ant, you know. And I've sat and I've ticked off every box and everything I want to see to justify going out to those mountains, so I feel covered, but I also know it's like right on the edge, that there's not a massive amount of margin, and if the weather came in the way that it was, you would have to fight to get back out, because it had been really bad. Conversely, it gave one of the biggest rushes and one of the most satisfying close to the edge moments of the entire Winter Munro round. It was brilliant, and standing out on those summits in the middle of nowhere overlooking Loch Malardach, just flipping brilliant. And I got back to Mam Sol, where you drop back down into the glen, and I just felt triumphant. It was brilliant. It's like finished Glen Affric, had an epic time. Superb, what more could you want? That's what it's all about. The following day I actually met up with Ali Rose, who offered to come out, and I was really grateful for that, because he was like, well, let's go to Drumochter. I had 3 summits left at Drumochter, and that would complete everything south of the Great Glen. And Ali Rose was just like, yeah, I'll drive you, which was a brilliant relief, because sometimes I find after the hill day, after the planning, after the cooking, after the shopping, the cleaning, the thinking, the messaging people, the making plans, reorganising plans, the stuff in the boots, the hanging the kit up to dry, everything, and you've done all that stuff, you just don't have any energy for driving, and sometimes it's a real struggle. So for Ali to drive me across to Drumochter was like superb. Just takes the pressure off, because so much of the Munro round is, for me here, the walking's only one half of the coin, and there's this other almost as big half, which is the rest of taking care of yourself, and that's a huge part of it. And doing Drumochter, it was a nice day. From Affric, came straight over east to finish these 3 that I've still to do. Back onto the plateaus for one day only. Went up the 3 on the east side. Definitely a gentle sense of optimism. Weather's pretty decent, and I feel like I'm moving pretty well in spite of a lot of deep snow. It was just a good day, but the funny part was that unlike all my previous days, it wasn't complicated. It was just, there's no avalanche risk because the hills are flat, the routes were all easy, there was no commitment, the road was right there, and it's like, God, this is what it was like before. Before I hit the Northwest Highlands, I remember it being this way, where you could just go and climb stuff and it worked. Whereas the entire Northwest Highlands has been so involved, committing, and yeah, really pretty difficult actually. Yeah. So a nice reminder of how much more forgiving some of the summits south of the Great Glen can be by comparison. So I'm on top of Maelchuaich here, last summit of the south of the Great Glen, with Ali Rose driving me about. So yeah. Very calm and still. And then I finished the week off with Knoydart. Had a brilliant trip. I went east to Mallaig, stayed with Brad, thanks Brad, and I headed off the boat with my bike. I'm in Knoydart today. and it's good. Wow, one day of amazing weather. And the first day I had one of the most stonking days I've had all winter on Lugnevin and Milbuye, and yeah, the hills were piled with snow, enormous amounts of snow on both of the summits. Had a brilliant time, one of the best days of the winter, one of the clearest days of the winter as well. The visibility was just sparkling. I also had a moment where I could see Ben Cruachan in the southern horizon in the sun. I've almost never had views the whole winter, but I could see Ben Cruachan, and that was my second Munro on the second day. And I've come all the way around the Highlands and I can still see it. It's like, wow, that was a lot of summits ago. And then the second day the weather's to get really bad. The winds were just to go through the roof, and I headed to Larvin in the morning. And it was actually quite easy. Every time I've climbed Larvin before, it's been a bit of an epic. But if you approach it by, I think it's Glen Gusson, and then straight up the flank, and then return back to Inverie, it was only like 4.5 hours, so quite a quick hill day. Yeah, so I'm just on Larvin at the moment, in Knoydart, and Larvin actually was my last Munro of my third round, which I completed just back in November, just like less than 4 months ago. So yeah, nice to be here. Yeah! Some of Larvin! Bye! Brilliant Knoydart trip. I love Knoydart, and the ferry's fantastic. They've got a really good ferry service in and out of Knoydart, so for hill days it doesn't actually feel too remote. I had debated about doing a huge through route across to Loch Cuaich, but a lot of fresh snow had fallen, and I was a little bit uncertain about the commitment factor of just going straight into that landscape. So I played it a little bit safe, but I had a brilliant trip and just a brilliant week, tying up lots of loose ends, completing a lot of areas, and starting to get into the meat of the Northwest Highlands.